Today we're gonna be turning this into this. So I've got the Armageddon box, but I've been dreaming of starting a Space Wolves army. So I could just sell the Space Marines of this box and buy a proper Space Wolves box. But I think I want to convert these ones into Space Wolves. Not because it's cheaper, definitely not because it's easier, but because building an army that feels like your own, it's definitely more rewarding than buying the perfect box. So today we are starting with this Chaplain, probably the hardest miniature of the entire box. I have been planning this idea for a while, so before the Armageddon box was released, I bought a ton of 3D printed bits to make this army possible. This pack included heads, caps, chainswords, and some extra details that I found cool. I also bought the Space Wolves Primaris upgrades from Games Workshop, which includes some extra shoulder plates, heads, and more importantly the decals, since they are not included in the Armageddon box. I started the conversion by removing countless skulls and other ornaments from the armor. I feel like they didn't really fit that well with the look I was going for. I also tried to smooth out these ropes, or however they are called, since I plan to sculpt some fur on top of them. Then I built most of the model normally, and drilled the gun barrel. For the shoulder plates I decided to use a flat one on the right side and one from the upgrade sprue on the left arm. And for the staff on his hand, I found this animal skull on the new 3D printed bits. This will make him look 10 times cooler. Now the most important change that I want to make, the head. I bought almost 20 different heads because I wanted to find the perfect one for each miniature. I tested some of them directly on the model and decided to go with this one. It reminds me to the official Wolf Priest head. Maybe I could use him as a Wolf Priest, ignoring the fact that he has a jump pack. It's funny how just changing the head completely changes the personality of the model. Right now it still looks like a generic Space Marine wearing wolf decorations. I'm trying to reach the point where someone sees it and immediately thinks, that's a Space Wolf. Okay, let's start sculpting. We need to add a lot of fur to make him look as wolfy as possible. I started by mixing some green stuff with some milliput, because I was running out of green stuff. Then I flatten it and use a piece on top of the jump pack and shoulders. I shaped it the way I wanted and use a couple extra pieces to go around his head into his chest. And also a piece between his legs. Here you might have noticed that the color of the patty changed a bit. That's because I found out my mix to be way too soft for sculpting fur, so I added a layer of pure green stuff on top. I guess I have to order some more if I want to do this whole army. I started doing little holes over all the surface with my hobby knife, and then cutting each hole moving downwards. This is exactly why I wanted to do this project. Anyone can buy a box of minis, but sculpting details like this means nobody else's army will look exactly like mine. I was following a YouTube tutorial on how to do this, and it ended up being much harder than I expected. I even broke some parts of the patty while I was doing that and had to remove them. Let me quickly prime the miniature and do a cenital white highlight to show you the end result. I think it looks really cool. I definitely could improve on the fur sculpting a bit, but that's okay. I have the whole box to try new stuff. It still isn't perfect, the fur could definitely be cleaner, but I think there's something really satisfying about looking across the table and knowing, yeah, I made that. Now for the painting. If you know me, you know that I like to identify the main, most important areas of a miniature and focused most of my efforts on them. For this marine, I think it is clear that those two elements are the armor and the new sculpted fur. For the armor, I want a high contrast style even using non-metallic metal principles, while still making it look as blue-grey overall. As you see, I start with a super dark blue and then go to a bright blue-grey, creating a huge step in brightness. I carefully paint each of the highlights, trying to place them where the light would naturally reflect on its surface. If you have never tried non-metallic metal, doing it on a colored armor instead of trying to make it look like steel or gold is way more forgiving and gives you easier results while still helping you learn the principles and understanding where the light reflects. Try it out, there's nothing to lose. After the first highlights, I placed some of the shadow color back in to soften the transitions before adding smaller, brighter highlights. The last step was mixing in a little bit of pure white to make the brighter highlights, basically just little dots and edges. Here's the result. It looks super cool to me, but took a lot of time. I don't really mind, because I want this model to really motivate me to start the whole project, and for that it needs to look amazing. Let's get to the fur. This is going to be much quicker. I started with this khaki yellow over all the area as a base for the contrast paints I'll be using on top. First, this orangey brown, leaving some of the khaki on the edges. I used a couple of layers to control how much it tints the surface. Then this darker brown towards the middle. And then this black wash to make the center areas even darker. The funny thing is, the fur took maybe 1/10 of the time of the armor, yet I think it contributes just as much to make him look like a space wolf. I am completely new to Space Marines and Space Wolves in particular, so I am still figuring out how to build this army. I'm starting to think converting the miniatures might actually be the easy part. Figuring out what unit they should become, that's where I'm completely lost. So while I finish painting the remaining details, let me walk you through the plan I have for the rest of the box. So this guy was just a test. I guess I could run him as the chaplain with jump pack he is, or maybe as a wolf priest, ignoring the jump pack completely since the weapons and the face look similar. For the intercessors, I've bought 3D printed chainswords and bolt pistols, and my plan is to convert them into blood claws, or maybe grey hunters. I don't really get the difference that well. For the veterans, I guess I can also convert them into sky claws, but I'm not sure if that unit will even last in the game because the models seem to be super old, and I don't think many people run them in their list anyway. I also have 5 shields, so I could just run them as veterans with storm shields too. Let me know your opinion. The captain is going to be a wolf guard battle leader for sure, easy and cool. And for the land speeder, there is not much option. I'll just try to make it as look as possible. So that's the whole plan. I don't really need my army to be super meta, and I am prioritizing the rule of cool above anything else. But I'd like to make most of my models at least playable. What do you think of it? We'll definitely buy some chapter-specific units later, as well as the combat patrol. But for some reason I wanted to start this army the hard way, so please let me know what you think about my plan and what would you do differently. As you can see, I've already painted the rest of the details, the base and the metallics. We could call it done already, but I want to include some orange accents that I think can complement the color scheme perfectly. I've bought this fluo orange that's super striking and cool. I spray a little white on the jump pack and the pistol and then some orange on top. Also painted a little yellow in the middle areas to make them a little brighter, and dry brushed some red on the outside area. And with that, I don't think this looks like an Armageddon Space Marine anymore. I think it finally looks like the miniature of my Space Wolf army. So yeah, I'm already in love with this project. This is definitely not the fastest way to build an Space Wolf army, and not the easiest either, but I already know it's going to be super rewarding. If you want to follow the rest of the Armageddon conversion journey, make sure to subscribe, because this is only the beginning. And if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to watch this video next, where I explore how painting less can actually make a miniature look better. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.